Title: The Spectral Guardian of Worlds. And the fog was a gray shroud that enveloped everything. The lighthouse, a bony tower that scratched the leaden sky, looked like an accusing finger pointing at nothing. Isolated on a rocky islet, lashed by the relentless fury of the ocean, the World's End Lighthouse was a place where sanity dissolved like salt in water. Ethan, a young lighthouse keeper with the reckless arrogance of youth and the desperate need for a job, had accepted the position despite the whispered warnings in the coastal town. Stories of a solitary specter, condemned to wander the tower, were commonplace in the local tavern. Ethan, of course, didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in logic, in science, in rational explanations for every phenomenon. The first night, the silence was deafening. Only the dull roar of the waves crashing against the rocks and the occasional moan of the wind through the cracked windows broke the stillness. Ethan checked the lamp mechanism, a monster of Fresnel lenses and intricate gears, ensuring that its beam of light, a watchful eye, swept through the darkness. He felt alone, yes, but not afraid. Just alone. It was on the second night that the whispers began. At first, he thought they were a figment of his imagination, tricks played by the wind and the isolation. Soft voices, almost inaudible, that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Alone. So alone. Ethan shook his head, trying to ignore them. He concentrated on his tasks, on the meticulous routine that kept the lighthouse running. But the whispers persisted, growing in intensity with each passing hour. Join me in my loneliness. They were plaintive voices, full of deep longing and relentless sadness. Voices that seemed to know him, to understand his own loneliness, that feeling of being a stranger in the world. One night, as he ascended the endless spiral steps to the top of the tower, Ethan felt a presence. It wasn't the usual bone-chilling cold, nor the salty dampness that permeated the air. It was something else. Something palpable, oppressive. In the lamp room, a spectral figure was silhouetted against the blinding light. He was a young man, with a slender build and a gaunt face, with sunken eyes that shone with infinite sadness. He wore a faded lighthouse keeper's uniform, stained by salt and time. Ethan stood paralyzed, disbelief fighting against terror. The specter looked at him, and a painful smile formed on his lips. Finally, the figure whispered, his voice a lament carried by the wind. "I'm not alone." Ethan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The specter approached, and Ethan could feel an intense cold emanating from his incorporeal form. "I was the guardian of this lighthouse many years ago," the specter continued, "but the loneliness consumed me. It led me to do something terrible. Something I regret every day." The specter extended a trembling hand toward Ethan. "Join me," he repeated, his voice now a desperate plea. "Alleviate my torment. Share my burden." Ethan took a step back, stumbling over one of the gears. The specter's story, the warnings from the town, all swirled in his mind. What had this man done to be condemned to wander the lighthouse for all eternity? And what did he want from him? The specter saw the fear in Ethan's eyes, and his smile vanished. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice now tinged with despair. "I only want to be freed." "Freed?" Ethan managed to stammer. "How?" The specter stared at him. "Replace me," he whispered. "Take my place, and I will be free." Terror flooded Ethan. He understood then the true nature of the curse. The specter was not only condemned to loneliness, but he was also condemned to seek a replacement, to drag another human being into his personal hell. Ethan refused. He ran, stumbling down the steps, the echo of the specter's plea ringing in his ears. For days, Ethan lived with the constant fear that the specter would appear. He locked himself in his room, with the door barred and the windows closed. But the whispers persisted, seeping through the walls, drilling into his mind. "Join me in my loneliness." One night, exhausted from lack of sleep and consumed by terror, Ethan had an idea. He remembered reading in an old book about arcane rituals that loneliness, in its purest and most concentrated form, could repel evil spirits. With trembling hands, he prepared a potion. It wasn't a magical potion, but something much simpler. A bitter concoction made with herbs gathered on the islet, mixed with sea salt and the essence of his own isolation. He drank the potion, feeling the bitterness burn his throat. He sat in the lamp room, waiting. The spectral figure appeared, as always, silhouetted against the blinding light. But this time, something was different. Ethan didn't feel fear. He felt a deep sadness, an overwhelming empathy for the specter's torment. "Why are you doing this?" the specter asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "Because I understand your loneliness," Ethan replied, "and because I know that I can't help you by freeing myself." The specter looked at him, perplexed. The only way to free yourself, Ethan continued, is to face your own sin, accept your punishment, and find redemption in your own soul. The specter recoiled, as if struck. His form began to flicker, to fade. No, he whispered. I can't. Yes, you can, Ethan said firmly. You have to. And then, the specter vanished. The lamp room fell silent, a deep and absolute silence. Ethan felt a sense of peace, a calmness he hadn't felt since arriving at the lighthouse. He never heard the whispers again, nor felt the specter's presence. The World's End lighthouse remained a lonely place, but it was no longer haunted. Ethan continued with his work, guiding ships through the fog, but now he did it with a renewed purpose. He knew that loneliness could be a monster, but he also knew that compassion and understanding could be his most powerful weapon. And sometimes, redemption is found in the most unexpected places, even in the loneliest lighthouse at the end of the world.